This is an example of the kind of damage that occurs when the spring lines aren't correct and the boat can come into the dock under very heavy sea conditions. High waves, high wind, pushing the boat against it. And if you don't have the spring lines correct, it'll hit the dock and you can see the damage. We're going to look at several boats today, and here's a good example of a boat that's been tied properly. And you can see it's not up against the dock. It can't get into the pier in front of it. Everything's good about this boat. All the tensions are correct, including the chafing from the chains to keep the line from being chafed. We spoke earlier about spring lines being properly tensioned to keep the boats off the docks. Well, here you can see that the spring lines are clearly in the water, and there's nothing that prevents the boats from going into the finger piers except what fenders they may put out. But let me point out that during a storm, the fenders are the first things to pop up from the wave action. So if you don't have the spring lines correct, the boats can go into the dock, causing damage to themselves and to the docks. I mentioned earlier about the spring lines being incorrect. Let me pull the boat towards the dock, and the only thing that keeps it from hitting the dock are the fenders, and you can see them squish. They won't be there long in very heavy wave action. Here's another example of a line that doesn't have the thimble around it. So how long do you think it would be in heavy waves before this line chafed through? And you can see it chafing already before it parted. And then this boat's going to go downstream, and who knows what problems it'll cause when it hits the docks and boats down there. We also talked about having a spring line to keep the boat from going backwards. Well, there's no spring line on this side, so the boat can very freely bang into the finger pier. In fact, on this dock, we've lost 3 finger piers in a bad storm in the not too distant past. This is an example of what's not correct and why. If you take a look down here, we talked about having a thimble and having a shackle and safety wire. Well, here you can actually see the chafing going on because that line has been pulling against that eye. So it's going to wear through someday. Maybe not today, but it's not even tied correctly. Another example is the starboard bow. You can see a nest of a knot back over there, but it doesn't have the shackle, it doesn't have the thimble, it doesn't have the safety wire. This is a great example of what not to do to tie a boat up at this club, especially on a dock that might be faced with seaward conditions. You can see the open water behind me.